to talk about Ra.
A classic.
Yes, this was originally part of the Alea series, although my version actually is not labeled as such, I don't believe. Yeah, this was from Uber Play. This is an earlier version. It's been re-released since then, right?
Multiple times. Originally, the game came out in 1999, but the designer, the actual doctor, Reiner Knizia, I think it's how you pronounce his name, but I'm not for sure. Art, Alison Klein, Thiago Sousa, and Franz Von Winkle. Board Game Geek rating is 7.5. MSRP, it's since there's been several printings. The last one went for $47.99, but I couldn't find it any cheaper than $100.
Wow. All right, so this is a pure auction game. Before I go any further, though, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I always forget this.
The subscribe button, the notification
Don't want to
bell.
miss out on these
that's right.
exciting reviews. We got lots of more to come.
We've got quite a few more to go.
Yeah, I got a lot of game review. We got a lot of new games going to be coming in. Gen Con's coming up for too long.
That's
We're
true.
getting lots of new games to show off.
Some Kickstarters coming in.
Yeah, lots of exciting things coming. So, just want to make sure you don't miss out on any of the action. So, as far as Ra, the quality of these components, I really like these wooden pieces. They got metallic metal or metallic paint. I'm sorry on them. They really reflect well. The Ra statue has got a nice gold. The colors of it really nicely go with the Egyptian motif when you're looking at what they was on all the different sarcophagus.
Right.
So the victory point tokens are like interesting hieroglyphics, and they have numbers that mark them from 1 to 10. They're basically cross scratches.
Right.
And then the tiles, they're decent thickness. They're not great, but they're decent thickness.
Yeah.
I mean, we've
pretty standard.
Played this quite a few times, and they haven't really shown really bad any kind of signs of too much wear. And you ruffle them through a big bag here, which the bag's really good quality. It's nice. It doesn't have any kind of printing or anything on the outside. It's just a basic bag, but it is
pretty
solid.
Bag, though.
Yeah, it's a lot better than what you see in a lot of games where you can actually see through the bag. This one you cannot. It's solid. Overall, I'm probably going to give the quality of probably a 7, I think.
I agree. I mean, I wish that the tiles were just a little bit thicker, but you got to remember, too, this is a pretty old game. So, even this version of it, which is not the original from 1999, but still, it's pretty good for the day it came out. So, I think a 7 is fine.
Yeah, this is a 2005 version. I as far as theme, I mean, obviously it's Egyptian. Yeah, it's a pure auction game, so there's not really any kind of Egyptian feel to it, other than the fact that every tile is an Egyptian depiction.
Right.
And of course, Ra is used as the triggering mechanism.
But
for the
really,
auction.
it's pretty painted on.
Yeah, it is.
It could be any.
You could have any. I mean, it could have been a pure auction. We had a gavel, and but it's definitely it's layered on, but it's incorporated into all of the motif of all the tiles.
But I think it's pretty standard for Euro games back in the day, though. I mean, theme, very, very little theme in games back then for this type of game.
Yeah, so for this, I'm thinking a 6, just because it is consistently carried through on everything. It's the art is consistently pulling in the Egyptian motif, and the Nile tiles trigger consistent because you have to have the flood to kind of go down the Nile, which we'll get to in gameplay.
I don't think it's any better than Catan, so I'm comfortable with a 5.
Okay. As far as the rule book, I mean, the rule book, it's a typical, what you see in an Alea book. It's got the rules, and then it's got a little side panel with the overview, which I always like.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really nice, because then you just, as a refresher, you can just read the side panel to remember the game if you put it away for a long while.
And the game's simple enough, you really don't need a cheat sheet, because the board tells you all the scoring.
Yeah.
So you really don't need any more than that.
Yeah. As far as the functionality of it, it does what it's supposed to do. I'm going to go ahead and give this an 8, because it's short, succinct, and it gets to the point.
I agree.
I don't think there's anything that was left out. There's no question on the rules.
Right.
So now on to gameplay. This is,
it's where it shines.
Yeah, this is the purest form of an auction game. You're not going to have any bells and whistles, because it's all about the auction. Literally, all you're going to do each turn, you have a choice. You can draw a tile, you can trigger Ra, which is to trigger the auction of what's already out. So there's a tableau here that goes, it's up to, I believe, 8 tiles. Yeah, 8 tiles. You're going to press your luck, in essence. You're going to either, if you draw a tile, you're going to take it and you're going to, let's get a different tile. You're going to place it into the tableau. Then you pass the bag to the next player. They have, again, the option. They could trigger raw, which you trigger the auction for whatever's in the tableau. Or else they're going to draw another tile from the bag and add it to the tableau until somebody decides they really like what's out there, at which point they're going to trigger raw. Now, you have bidding tokens. Depending on the number of players, you'll get a different distribution of the values and the number of them. But with 3 players, you get 4 of these tiles. So if we had these, we'll give these to a non-player. Rob, you get these. So if I was the one who triggered raw, our player to the left here could bid on this, and they would put maybe a 3 down. Now, at this point, they're winning the auction. They would win these tiles if everybody passed. And they would then take the tiles, and they would also take this number that's in the center at the beginning of the game. It's the 1. It's the lowest number. And they're going to replace it with their number. So they would own these tiles if we had all passed. Then the game would continue on. I would pass the bag to the next player, and they would continue on with the game. If we had more tiles out there, let's see, let's put some more tiles out there, and somebody drew, I'll put these back, somebody drew the red raw tile, that automatically triggers a raw, so we don't have to worry about clicking this. It's going to immediately trigger that raw, and we're going to continue around the table just as if instead you had triggered this. Once this fills up to the number of players, no matter whether you've gotten all of your auctions in and filled all your bids, you're going to the round will end automatically, and everything in the board will get lost. So you've got to press your luck and decide how long you're going to go as far as bidding. Because if everyone else at the table has already filled all their bids and you're the only one left, you can keep just filling the board. So, and it's truly a pressure luck at that point. It's like, do I draw another tile? Is it going to trigger a raw? Is it going to trigger? There are some bad tiles in the bag. So as far as the different tiles, we'll go through those. You have gray tiles. These are, you lose points at each round, 5 points, if you have none of these. And you gain points if you have different ones. So there's 5 different ones in the bag. If you have 3 of them, you'll get 5 points. If you have 4 of them, you'll get 10. And if you have 5 of them, you'll get 15. But these tiles do not have any kind of markings to show that you get to keep them. So at the end of the round, you lose these tiles. So you'll have to gather them every round. And you play 3 rounds in the game. The green tiles, these have a marking of an X on this version. I don't know if other versions had different types of markings. But in this case, you get to keep these. And the player who has the most gets 5 points. The player who has the fewest will lose 2 points. And that means if you're the fewest every round, you're going to lose 2 points every round for 3 rounds.
So 6 points.
6. Yep. The Nile tiles, you can collect those. And here's they are here. If you collect, you can collect them, but they aren't going to be worth anything.
And you keep them.
You keep them. They have a marking to show you keep them. But they aren't going to be worth anything unless you get a flood tile. The flood tile just looks like a Nile tile, but it has pure water. If you get the Nile tile, it triggers the entire river. So you'll get the point for the Nile tile and every...
So you only need 1 flood token to activate all of them.
To trigger all of it.
Okay.
But you'll lose the Nile tile, or the flood tile.
It'll go back.
It goes away. Did I go back? It gets removed from the game.
Oh, so it won't go back in the bag or nothing?
There's more of them in the bag. So this gets removed from the game, and all the Nile tiles will trigger. It won't trigger unless you get another Nile tile. So it's green, gray, red. The brown tiles have, well, in this case it's brown. Again, different versions tiles may vary, but this one has gold, 3 gold on it. This is 3 victory points, pure and simple. The yellow tile, this is a wild. It lets you take a tile from the tableau. You can keep it, it's worth 2 points if you don't use it. But during the round, if you do use it, you take and play it instead of drawing a tile or triggering the raw. You take a tile you want from the tableau and just remove it. And this is removed from the game. If you don't use it, these are lost at the end of the round too. So then the last type of tile, apart from the bad ones, are these building tiles. So the building tiles are not used until the end of the game. These have a marking, so you keep them until the end of the game. You don't lose them. But you're trying to collect different or the same of these. There's 5 of the same of each one in the bag, and there's 8 different ones. You can, if you score both at the end of the game. So if you have a whole bunch of these, you could score vertically having the same, or horizontally and score all different. And the different ones are worth 1 point each unless you get 7 or 8 of them. If you get 7, they're worth 10, and if you get 8, they're worth 15. And then for the identicals, you get 3 points or 5 points for 3, 10 for 4, and 15 for 5. And this version of the game has it actually printed on the board, which I think is really nice.
Really nice. And it does it on both sides of the board.
Yeah, so
no matter where you sit, you should be able to read it pretty well.
Yeah, which I thought was really good.
I do too.
And then also, at the end of the game, whoever has the highest number total of all their counts, so if you want to collect the numbers at the end, then whoever has the most total sum of your bidding tiles gets 5 points. Whoever has the fewest loses 5 points. So it's a nice thing because it makes you strategically try to decide which ones. Plus, getting the higher numbers is going to give you advantages in the bidding in the next round. But if you may have to desperately want something and you'll have to use one of those big numbers and give it up. So there's a nice balancing to this. Now, one tile we didn't talk about is the destruction tiles. There's one for every type of tile: the Nile tile, the gray tiles, the green tiles, and the building tiles. If they have a black border like these and they match the color of whatever tile, you lose 2 of them if you get these in the auction. So these kind of poison the tableau.
And then do those also go back in bag, or are they gone?
No, they're gone. Everything, once they come out of the bag, is removed. I mean, you don't keep anything. Okay. But if it goes into play, any greens that you have or ones that you gain from the tableau, you're going to lose 2 of them in the case of the green one, or the case of the building one, any building ones will. So you can really get a nasty tableau out there where nobody will want it. And you'll just okay, let's just fill this chart and get them out of there. Because if the whole thing fills up and nobody triggers a raw, it automatically triggers a raw too.
Right, assuming that no one draws a red tile.
Right. But if somebody fills this all the way up, it's automatically a raw as well.
And then who's stuck with getting all those?
You can all pass.
Okay.
Yeah, and if so, the whole board just gets wiped. But yeah, that's when you start seeing a bunch of the destruction tiles, you're probably going to want to just let that one go. Right. You're not going to want to get it. Now, again, if you don't have those type of tiles and there's some good stuff in there that isn't getting destroyed, you could probably get that on a cheap bid, which is nice. Another strategy, like early on in the game, is if you got some lower numbers, and if you really have low numbers and everybody else has got high numbers, is you can quickly raw when there's only 1 or 2 tiles out there, and people are probably less likely to bid for that. So you can steal it from, if there's something good out there you want. And there might be a good number here in the center that you can then swap out for the next round. Or you can, if there's something somebody wants, you could raw to get them to go ahead and bid, so you can then
get that number.
Get them out of the way so your low numbers become more valuable. So there's strategy in how you decide and when you decide you're going to raw in this game, and that's really where all the strategy of this game comes in. It's not a heavy strategy game by any means.
But there's more to it than just what you initially think.
Yeah. I definitely think there's more meat there than it sounds, because there's not a whole lot. I mean, just draw a tile, play a tile onto the tableau, trigger the raw. There's not a whole lot.
And there's some strategy. It's just not luck.
Yeah, it's not pure luck. Although luck is definitely involved.
For sure.
As far, I think it's, as far as the Alea series games, I think it's probably one of the lighter ones.
Right.
And it's definitely, I would consider this something that could be an entry-level game, or at least...
I think it is pretty much considered an entry-level game.
Yeah. Certainly as far as Euros go.
And it's one of the early, as far as, hobby board games go, it's definitely one of the earliest auction games that are out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's not anything beyond what the basic simple. And, it's almost a little dated because of that, because a lot of the games that incorporate auction bidding type of things are now adding things to it.
They've elevated it.
Yeah, it's not just that. So and this is in its purest form. So,
Yeah, but just think about all the games today. If it didn't have Raw to build up on,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be.
Well, it's just like
Right.
deck builders.
Exactly.
You consider Dominion. Well, Dominion is a very straightforward, basic. Now how many times you see deck building as an attribute of a
Right.
game where it's not just the only attribute. So I think this was a stepping stone. It now suffers a little bit in its scoring from the fact that it is so basic and dated, but it's still a lot of fun. As far as my score, I'm probably going to go ahead and give it a 7, just because it is a little rudimentary. It's not got a lot of meat to it anymore.
I think that's a fair score. I think I was going to go around the same level because it's a light game, but it's a fun game to try and get, especially if you got newer gamers or gamers that are kind of intimidated to some of the more modern games. This is a good one to get in there. Try and get people comfortable before you maybe break out something a little bit heavier.
Yeah, and not every game has to be a brain burner.
Absolutely.
This is definitely not a brain burner, but it's a little bit engaging as far as strategy goes. So I think it had a niche. It's still got a niche. It's well, I think it's out of print. You said, right?
It's out of print, but it's got a good app integration.
Yeah.
The app that's out, it's got the more modern art, so it looks a little bit better and it looks a little less dated than this version.
Yeah. So if you haven't checked it out, you might want to track it down or try the app. Yeah. So, well, that's our assessment of Raw. Hope to see you again soon here next time we do a video.
And again, hit that subscribe button so you can see our adventures in board game land and seeing what new stuff that we're trying. And we're doing old stuff too, so hopefully we come across something that you're interested in. And if not, let us know. And if we have it, we'll play it. And if we don't have it,
we'll probably track it down.
We'll probably get it. So. Well, that's the way we roll.
Yep. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.